Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and start part 2. Now, again, if you haven't already tried the part 1 practice and the part 1 quizzes, I would recommend doing that first because this is a little bit different kind of problem, and I wouldn't try and do parts 1 and part 2 all together. I would even probably wait a day, maybe do part 1 on Monday, let it settle, and start part 2 on Tuesday. Just a recommendation. What we're going to do today is we're still factoring trinomials, just like we did in part 1, but the difference is now we have ax squared plus bx plus c, where the a is greater than 1. So basically now we have a number in front of the x squared. Okay? Now, I've taught this a lot of different years in a lot of different ways, but today we're going to try the slip and slide method. So if you have done this before, a different method, and you want to practice that way, that's fine. I can even post a video just for you. But what I want to do is just pick one method and stick with that, unless you specifically request something different. So today we're working on the slip and slide. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the a and we're going to slip it to the end and multiply it times the c. So we're going to take this a, slip it to the end, multiply it times c. Then we're going to factor just like we did in part 1. Okay? So now our diamond is going to look like this. Instead of just having c on top, we're going to have a times c on top and then b on the bottom. Okay. Then we're going to divide both factors by the a, reduce fractions if we can, and then slide the denominator if there is one in front of the variable. Okay? So, again, I always like to put the steps here so you can refer back to them, but that's going to make a whole lot more sense as we actually work through a problem or two. Okay? So, example 1. You'll notice that the way this is different from the part 1 problems is that it's not just x squared. Now, we have a 2 in front. Okay? So this 2, we're going to slip it over here and multiply it times the 3. So we're going to do 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay? And that's what's going to go in our diamond. So we have 6 on top, and then the 5 goes on bottom. So I have to find factors of 6 with a sum of 5. Two numbers that add up to give me 6. Two numbers that multiply together to give me 6, but add up to 5. So our numbers are 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay? So, if this was a problem from part 1, we would just do x plus 2, x plus 3. Okay? But there's another step involved here. Because we had that number in front, I'm going to take that number that we slipped over here and multiplied, and I'm going to divide my factors by that number. So since it was a 2 that we had here, I'm going to divide these by 2. And then we're going to simplify if we can, reduce the fractions. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this is x plus 1. 3 over 2 does not simplify, it does not reduce. So we're going to take that 2 and we're going to slide it up in front of the x. So that's going to be a 2x plus 3. Okay? So again, we took that 2 and we multiplied it by the number at the end. So we did a times c. 2 times 3 is 6. Then we looked for factors of 6 with a sum of 5. And we found our 2 and 3. So we wrote them in like we would have in part 1, but we had to divide them by that number that we slipped over and multiplied. Okay? 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that one didn't have a denominator. 3 over 2 doesn't simplify, so we take that denominator and we slide it up in front of the variable. Okay? I know that's a lot, and I know it seems kind of weird, but if you remember, we had said in part 1 that if we wanted to check and see if we did it right, we could just multiply and see if we wind up where we started. So if I have x plus 1, so I'm just going to check it here. X plus 1 times 2x plus 3. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times 3 is 3x plus 2x plus 3. And when we combine like terms, sure enough, we end up where we started, so that we know that we factored it correctly. Again, this is not something that I expect you to just see at one time and then understand it completely. It takes a little practice. It's a little bit of a strange process. Okay. So I have a few more examples. All right, example 2. 5x squared minus 17x plus 6. So I'm going to take that 5, flip it over here, and I'm going to multiply. 5 times 6 is 30. So I'm looking for factors of 30 with a sum of negative 17. Okay. Factors of 30 with a sum of negative 17. If my product is positive and my sum is negative, then that means I'm going to be doing a negative times a negative. So that's going to be negative 15 times negative 2. Negative 15 times negative 2 is positive 30. Negative 15 times negative 2, plus negative 2 is negative 17. Okay. So we have x minus 15 and x minus 2. But we know that's not right because we have a 5 up front, so it can't just be x and x, right? So I'm going to take that 5 that we slipped over, and I'm going to divide them here. Okay, I'm going to have to do 15 divided by 5 and 2 divided by 5. So I'm going to simplify it if I can. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So this becomes x minus 3. Okay. 2 divided by 5 is not going to reduce. That's not going to simplify. So I'm going to slide the denominator here, and that gives me 5x minus 2. Okay. There's example 2. X minus 3 times 5x minus 2. And again, if you wanted to check it, you could just distribute it, multiply, and it should bring us right back here. Okay. Let's try 2 more. Example 3. 6y squared minus 5y minus 4. I'm going to take that coefficient of y squared, that number out in the very front. I'm going to slip it over and multiply. 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. So I need factors of negative 24 with a sum of negative 5. Okay. Factors of negative 24 with a sum of negative 5, that's going to be negative 8 times 3. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. So I'm going to start out with y minus 8 times y plus 3, but then I have to take that 6 and divide my factors by 6. Okay. So 8 divided by 6, now that's not going to go in evenly, but I can reduce that. 8 and 6 are both divisible by 2, so divided by 2, that's going to give me negative 4/3. So y minus 4/3. And then over here, 3 divided by 6, that's going to reduce to 1/2. Okay. So now that I've simplified, I'm going to take the denominators and I'm going to slide them in front of the variable. So this is going to give me 3y minus 4 and 2y plus 1. Okay, last example. We're going to take that 12 and multiply it here. 12 times 5 is 60, but that's a minus 5, so we have a negative 60. I need factors of negative 60 with a sum of 11. Okay, so 60, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. 2 times 30. There we go. I'm going to stop there because I found the numbers I need. Okay, 4 times 15 is 60. And if I make this a negative 4, negative 4 times 15 is negative 60. Negative 4 plus 15 is 11. So it's going to be negative 4 and positive 15. So that's going to give me x minus 4 times x plus 15. But again, I have to divide them by that 12. Okay. So we're going to simplify that fraction if we can. 4/12 is the same as 1/3. 15 over 12 is the same as 5/4. And then we have to slide the denominator up in front of the variable. So we end up with 3x minus 1 times 4x plus 5. And I know that if I was in class with you, which is where I wish I was, we would have a discussion right now about when you're ever going to use this in real life, and it would be really hard for me to give you an answer for that. But it is an important skill. It's one of the things that you need to get out of algebra is factoring, because you'll use it as you move into a little bit of geometry and more so algebra 2. So now that you've been through these notes, like I said, rewatch the video as many times as you need to. I would recommend doing the practice problems that are posted. I'm going to post an answer key to that, and then the actual graded assignment is going to be the quizzes that goes along with this. Please check in with me this week. I would love to hear from you, see your face on a video, or at least get an email or a message on Remind. Let me know what help you need. Let me know what I can do for you, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.